Okay, now I'm definitely gonna have cat hair all over my sweater for the rest of this video, but maybe that's the vibe. Welcome back to the three-ring circus that is my YouTube channel. Now, I'm warning you right now, this video is gonna be a little bit more vulnerable than most of my videos, but look, 2025 is coming to a close, and I just thought, screw it. You know, like, I am so used to burying everything that I create, and as a creative person, I make something every single day. Now, 99% of the time, it's jack shit, like my 2 a.m., notes app poetry that I wouldn't share if I were on my deathbed. But the point is, I'm constantly creating things, and I'm very rarely actually sharing them. And a lot of it is because I'm a little bit terrified of public perception, but I think even more than that, I'm terrified of no perception at all, like just putting things out into the universe and nobody seeing them. And of course I'm gonna blame myself and not the fact that this YouTube channel, I post to it maybe 2 times a year, so yeah, like if you post maximum to a YouTube channel 2 times a year, people aren't gonna interact with your content, babe. You gotta post more. But that's kind of the point. That's why I'm here today. I've always thought that people's weaknesses were more interesting than their strengths. So I'm going to start off this section of the video by telling you what I believe to be my 3 biggest weaknesses. Other than being Team Jacob, which everybody in my life seems to think is a fundamental personality defect, but besides that. First of all, I am indecisive. My inability to make decisions confidently and efficiently has honestly caused me to lose out on so many opportunities in my life. There's just so much out there. How could I ever decide on what I actually want? Number 2, impatience. Now, some of my impatience, I do believe, stems from the rise of all of these totally brain rot social applications that have slowly deteriorated my attention span over the past decade. But I think also even before social media, I've always just been a little bit impatient. The best things in life are worth the wait, but I don't want to wait. So I fall victim to the instant, unfulfilling gratification. And that shit doesn't last. And number 3, as you might have realized by now, I'm a bit of a cynic. And a bit self-absorbed as well, considering that this entire video is just going to be a diarrhea of my own mind and my own thoughts, which is a little bit narcissistic, perhaps, but I'll save the psychoanalysis for another video. I'd be lying if I said that my past year, or honestly my past 5 years, have been easy. As a woman living in America in her late 20s, I seemingly have everything that I could ever want or need. I have a stable job, a working car, a supportive family, amazing friends, meaningful relationships, a warm bed, a cute cat, a fat ass. The list goes on. I'm living the fucking dream, but somehow the world around me has convinced me that I'm living in a nightmare because capitalism thrives off of you convincing yourself that you don't have enough. I'm living a life that people around the world could only dream of. I'm so privileged and I'm so lucky. As a grown adult, I can recognize my blessings and my struggles in the same breath. My life is beautiful, and to those around me, it is simple, leisurely, and high quality. So why am I constantly wanting more out of it? Let me give you a quick recap of my year that nobody asked for, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway. So January started off pretty rough. You had Trump's inauguration, David Lynch's death. It was getting dark at 5 p.m. I was dealing with illness. I was dealing with issues in my relationships. All around, it just didn't really set the tone for an amazing year. And I will say, I had a lot of great experiences in 2025, most of which did revolve around me experiencing art with my friends, which, not to sound corny, but experiencing art with your friends is literally one of the things that makes me truly feel alive in my life. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm going to a music festival, if I'm working on a film set, if I'm just inviting the girls over to drink wine and like paint. I don't care what it is. For me, and maybe it's just because I don't have a lot of other shit going on in my life right now, but that is one of the most important things. And I think the interesting thing about my year is that the hardships weren't as tangible. So in the past, I've been like objectively down bad. I've been unemployed. I've been sick. There were years where I wanted to myself, This year though, there really wasn't anything that happened that was like, oh my God, this is so bad. The hardships were more subtle, especially in my day-to-day life. I kind of just went through every day feeling monotonous, directionless, meaningless, wasteful. I feel like I was spending crucial years of my life working an email job and staring at screens. The further I get in my 20s, the more I think about motherhood. I cannot go online without seeing a pregnancy announcement or even like engagement photos or perfectly curated wedding photo dumps. And let me, for the sake of this video, try not to be cynical as hell, because it'd be very easy for me to sit here and say, fuck those people, y'all are basic, y'all are gonna end up divorced. But the truth is, I have nothing against these people, unless you bullied me in middle school, in which I wish you a very divorce. I'm not angry at these people. If anything, I'm happy for them, but I'm kind of just angry at a society that not only amplifies one specific type of lifestyle, but constantly puts it on a pedestal as the only type of lifestyle to aspire to. And honestly, I'm angry at myself, because it would not be that hard for me to put myself out there, to meet someone, to eventually get engaged, to eventually have a child. If that's the type of life that I wanted, I could just run out there and grab it by the horns. Well, maybe not, because I have a sneaking suspicion that I might be infertile. Probably not, but like, whatever. Anyways, the point is, this situation is kind of my own fault. And I think coming to terms with that is kind of the point. Beyond just marriage and motherhood, which I do want to point out are not necessarily intertwined, it should be pretty obvious that you can be married without being a mother, and you can be a mother without being married, but to some people, they just can't get it through that skull of theirs. Sometimes being a mother isn't even a choice to begin with. Like, some people really want to be mothers and they just can't. But since this section of the video is literally entitled, Fuck My Big Fat Chungus Life, I thought I would give you a little snapshot of my day-to-day life, otherwise known as a journal entry. And I'm gonna put my glasses on for this one, because I can't see, and I've been trying to read notes this whole video and I can't see. Whatever. Enjoy this poetry reading. My poetry sucks and I still don't know what my sexuality is. My car is making a weird noise and none of my pants fit me right. They say practice makes perfect, but I write every day and I still hate every word on the page. One morning a few weeks ago, I was watching the birds outside on my patio with my cat, and I started to cry. I don't even know why. One second I was watching a cardinal soar across the sky, and the next I was sobbing into my cereal like a fucking loser. It feels elitist as hell to be sitting here in the comfort of my own home, with food in my fridge, employed and in my 20s, with the world at my fingertips, and still be like, life is hard. But sometimes it is. Maybe life is beautiful because it is challenging, not in spite of it. Maybe being religious or seeing everything as a sign is delusional, but I don't judge those people, because I too believe that there's a world beyond this. There has to be. That's probably the worst poem ever written. Fuck my big fat chungus life, but at the same time, my big fat chungus life is the only life that I have, so I might as well live it to the fullest. What's worse, being known or being unknown? Don't answer that. This is something I think about a lot, though, because making yourself known could mean several things. It could mean volunteering in your local community, going to coffee shops or bars or parks, meeting new people, experiencing new things, sharing your art, sharing yourself on the internet at all. Sometimes it feels like if you don't at least try to make yourself known, then you have nothing to show for your life. But the kicker is, sometimes living in the shadows just seems so appealing. We exist in an oversharing economy. Social media algorithms reward those who post multiple times a day, who share every waking detail of their daily life. And as consumers, we eat this shit up. We want lifestyle videos, we want daily vlogs, what I eat in a day, behind the scenes snapshots at the realities of life. We crave this type of content because we value authenticity. It's much more interesting to see what an influencer does between carefully curated content. But the irony is that even authenticity is manipulated, because at the end of the day, people are only sharing what they want to. In an era of filters that drastically change our appearance online, surgery that drastically changes our appearance in real life, and artificial intelligence that drastically changes like everything, authenticity is a commodity just like anything else. Just because beauty trends have strayed away from heavy makeup to minimalist skincare doesn't mean that that minimalist skincare isn't being applied to a face that's been heavily altered already by tools. Just because AI images look realer than they used to doesn't mean that the images are any closer to reality. And we shouldn't stop demanding the truth just because the truth is becoming harder to detect. The concept of authenticity is actually a large part of my hesitation to share myself more online. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with altering your appearance to fit a certain vibe. For example, I'm wearing makeup today, I'm wearing a headband and a sweater, this is the background. If I changed the background of this video or what I was wearing or even did my makeup a little bit differently, it would create an entirely different aesthetic. But it gets complicated though, because now when I take a picture of myself, for example, it recommends adding a beauty filter, or sometimes it even automatically puts a filter on the photo. And of course, I look better with the fucking filter on. So usually I'll be like, yeah, that looks good, accept. And then that's where the sinister shit starts happening, because boom, I start getting ads for lip injections or Botox or plastic surgery, ads that I wasn't getting before. And there's nothing wrong even with those procedures on their own, but they're never really existing on their own. I'm in my 20s, I'm happy with the way I look, but that's not what capitalism wants. Capitalism wants you to hate yourself. But I think beyond just my appearance online, I struggle with authenticity, because the truth is, I don't know who the fuck I am. I know parts of myself, I know what I like, I know what I don't like, but when it comes to who I actually am, I have no fucking idea. And I struggle to be authentic because I'm constantly changing. One day I feel like a Lululemon athletic girly, one day I want to dress like Adam Sandler, one day I want to wear an Iron Maiden shirt and pluck my eyebrows out and wear black lipstick. And does me changing my aesthetic every day make me less authentic, or does it just make me a layered human being, which, shocker, we all are. We're all complex human beings, and I don't think that you not necessarily knowing exactly who you are should prevent you from making yourself known. And I hate to keep bringing up capitalism because it's like blah, 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 but it kind of does intertwine with like everything I'm talking about, so I'm going to bring it up again. But capitalism benefits from you putting yourself in a box. Like, capitalism's all about strong marketing and branding, which honestly is a good thing because it makes it easier for consumers when they know exactly what they're going to get. But for certain people, like me, for example, I actually value uncertainty more. It's more interesting to me as a human being to never know exactly what you're going to get from someone. And I'm not talking about people who flake on you or are inconsistent or something like that, but I'm talking more about people who are educated and interesting, and every time you see them or have a conversation with them, you know that it's going to expand your worldview or it's going to open your eyes to something. It just feels more fresh and more new than hanging out with someone where it's just the same thing every time. Like, sometimes that consistency can be comforting, but at the end of the day, uncertainty is really the only thing that's going to drive a relationship forward.
I really tried not to do the whole editing cam thing in this video, but I feel like this is a very necessary example because the statement, uncertainty is the only thing that'll drive a relationship forward, or whatever the fuck I said, sounds so crazy out of context. But I just wanted to explain, I'm not saying that like being inconsistent or being uncertain in a relationship, any relationship, not just a romantic one, friendships, whatever, that's going to kill a relationship. What I meant to say is that in relationships, you kind of need newness. You need things to keep a relationship fresh and fun. It can't just be the same exact thing every time, at least for me in my experience, because I will get bored. So that's what I meant. But yeah, uncertainty is good. Like, it was the wrong wording.
And how do you become one of those people? Like, how do you become an interesting person? I think it really is all about just being a well-rounded and cultured human being open-minded. Instead of sharing yourself with the world, you're sharing the things that you've learned along the way, and that's so much more compelling. I think ultimately the key to getting over the fear of making yourself known is balance. Share your art. Make yourself known, connect with your community, but also know when to take a step back, when to take breaks. And don't feel pressured to share every single waking moment of your life, especially if you haven't even processed that moment yourself yet. Time is a luxury, and I think most people realize that, which is probably why they feel like they're not utilizing their time enough or that they're running out of time. Learning that my time on this earth is finite and also learning how to make the most of that time has genuinely been like one of the biggest challenges of my 20s. First off, time is a luxury, but it's also a privilege. For example, the time that I had to create this video, to sit down and write a script and set up my camera and click record, this entire video basically just being me overthinking and processing my life. I mean, this is a luxury that if I were too overtaken by work or illness or other responsibilities, I wouldn't even get to do. Time is also a challenge, especially in your 20s, because I often feel like this is a very instrumental and monumental decade of my life, and I should be like making the most of my time and meeting people and traveling and doing all these things. But at the same time, life often feels too confusing or chaotic or overwhelming, and I feel like I'm not making the most of that time because I'm just tired. Anyone who has lost someone in their life understands the value of time. There are a few people I've lost who I would give anything just to be able to have one more conversation with, or see how their life would have played out if they were still here. The world is honestly really fucking unfair sometimes, but if anything, grief has forced me to value the time I have. But there's a fine line between value and pressure. I greatly value my life. I feel like I take advantage of most of the opportunities that come my way. I volunteer, I go to concerts, I travel, I hang out with friends, I make shitty art, I talk to my family, etc. But sometimes, and even tying it back to motherhood, which I talked about earlier, it's hard because I feel like certain things have an expiration date. And that is always kind of looming in the background, and I have no idea when or if it will ever happen to me, or if I even want that for myself, or if I've just been conditioned to believe that I need certain things out of life. When we talk about making the most of our time on this earth, I think we have to talk about mental health. Depression, for example, which luckily is really the only major mental illness that I've had to navigate in my life. I've worked in the mental health care field for years, and I'm not a fan of people just throwing around terms like depression and anxiety.
But I do have clinical depression, and that shit ain't a joke, let me tell you.
And I say this with love because look, y'all, I have been in that position. I have ghosted people. I have thrown around mixed signals. I've been pretty rude to people. And granted, I was going through a pretty gnarly depressive episode at the time, but that's still not an excuse. The other side of that coin, though, is that depression and just mental illness in general can be absolutely debilitating. People lose entire decades of their life to mental illness until they just have to spend the rest of their life rebuilding and trying to make up for lost time that they can never get back. People lose their lives to mental illness, and there's no coming back from that. Like, this is some serious shit. My point is that you should never feel guilty for wasting time in your life that you spent being mentally ill. There are entire chunks of my life that I have had to solely dedicate to just focusing on healing and getting myself back to being a functioning human being. And you know what? I don't view that as wasted time, because it's time that I spent in the world making sure that I could still be here, quite honestly. Last thing I'll say about time is that, Diva, the time is now. The economy wants you to live in the future. It wants you to think about all of the things that you have to do and that you have to buy so that it can profit off of your excitement. Weaponized nostalgia wants you to live in the past and overthink every single thing that you've ever done and buy things that remind you of a simpler time that honestly probably wasn't even that simple. We just look at the past through rose-colored glasses because it's easier than admitting that life was shit then and it's also shit now.
Last editing cam footage, I promise, and I think my neighbors are doing the deed in the background. So if you can hear that, I'm sorry. I have very little control over what they do. But this is a point that I wanted to make, and I thought that I recorded it, but I think it got lost. Learning to appreciate the present moment is so underrated, even though everybody talks about it. And something that I wanted to note about the present, particularly as an artist, is that so many times I've been led to believe that experiencing or creating art was a distraction from my daily life. Like that feeling you get when you're in the zone creatively and the world seems to disappear around you, and the feeling, that you get in a movie theater when the lights dim or you're completely engulfed in someone else's story. I used to see these as escapes from life, but now I see them as an integral part of life. Art is not a distraction. Sometimes your life outside of art, like your work and bills and responsibilities and all that, is the actual distraction. So I just want to make it clear that time that you spent experiencing art, whether it was reading a good book or even just like sitting on your ass and watching TV, that is still valuable time spent in the world.
I want to end this video by sharing a few goals that I have for next year, as well as a few lessons that I've learned this year, which I'm realizing now that this entire video does feel a wee bit corny. But good thing I live life on the cob. I wrote down some goals, and I'm gonna have to read them off my laptop. I feel like such a grandma. Let me put my spectacles on, read this out to ya. Here's some things that I learned this past year. Wear the comfortable shoes, always negotiate. Charisma is not a substitute for consistency. That's a big one. Your health is worth the investment. Embarrassment is the price you pay for authenticity. Sometimes love isn't enough. And faith goes beyond religion. I also learned how to microwave sweet potatoes before trying to cut them, and that was a game changer, I have to say. One of my biggest goals for next year, honestly, is to stop second guessing myself. And I promise I'm not trying to be cocky when I say this, but I actually am rarely wrong. Like, I'm wrong all the time when it comes to like philosophical debates or emotional things or math. I screw up math a lot. But in terms of like logistics and practicality and just what I want out of life or the advice that I give other people, I've learned that I'm actually a lot less delusional and stupid as I thought I was at the beginning of the year. So I really want to capitalize on that and start trusting myself more. Basically just going through 2026 with the confidence of a man who was born into generational wealth is going to be my vibe. I also want to read more books, finally travel outside of this country, maybe even give sobriety a try. I'm not sure about that one, but we'll see. But anyways, thank you guys for sticking with me through this entire video, and I hope that you all have an ethereal 2026. Bye! Love ya!